Bitches and faggots, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? It's Jason Van Jason here for number 7 of my show, Bitch Faggot Radio. We call it Bitch Faggot Radio just to kind of deter all the sensitivity in the world somewhere else. You know, we don't need any of that sensitivity here. The world's already full of it. This is a place is a little more loose, a little more free-flowing, a little less constricted, a little more open, so to speak. And in that openness, I revel in the fact that I can call you a homo dick sucker and a faggot, and no one's getting all butthurt about it. No pun intended. I really like this space, this place and this vibe and kind of just everything about this, and I'm hoping I can just continue to just have my own space, devoid of anything other than my thoughts, which has felt pretty good so far. Anyways, before we get into the show, let's get down the particulars, as we do every time. You can follow me on Twitter at Jason Van Jason. If you have a Facebook, you can find me on there. I do actually have a Facebook with my own name, Jason Van Jason, as the profile name, like the real name, which apparently you're supposed to use a real name, and when I created it, I wasn't aware of that, and so it might not have helped that I added 20,000 random people I didn't know, but that was kind of more of a social experiment I was doing using Facebook, and one of them ended up reporting the name, because it's fake, obviously, and then Facebook wanted me to produce an ID for that account, and I was like, I'm not producing an ID for this account, so I just abandoned it. So it's there. But the actual Jason Van Jason fan page, I don't even know the link to it, the name of it. You might find it on my blog, I don't know. Speaking of my blog, you can find that at my Amazon Author Central page, which is Jason Van Jason. I would direct you to it if you would like to make any purchases or find my blog. If you're reading this, if you're listening to this on my blog, you can click on the video name and go to my YouTube channel and subscribe or like or tell me I'm a fucking idiot. I don't really care. That's the great thing about this little area, this little space, this platform, is that it's really one of freedom. If you want to just call me a fucking moron and say why, or just call me a fucking moron without reason, you're more than open to do that. And just as well, I'm open to call you a fucking moron as well. And hopefully there's no hard feelings incurred, and if there are, go fuck yourself. Real simple. That's the way we like to do things around here. Real simple. Real straightforward, to the point. Anyway, so episode 6, we had talked about success and failure, more failure, but nonetheless, we talked about that, and today is just kind of an all-around weird day. I went to church today and had a spiritual meeting with my pastor, and so, you know, got kind of those ideas flowing through my head, got, you know, ideas about life floating through my head, and I'm not too sure where they're gonna lead, but I just wanted to start off by just kind of making a point. That point, sorry, there's a group of 4. I'm just at the park here. There's a group of 4 people walking across here. I'm trying not to attract too much attention to myself so that I can stare at their titties. Anyways, So, as human beings, we all strive towards this word. And when I say this word, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to try not to say it. Well, I guess I'll just say it, but you got to reserve the meaning of what I'm using it for. You can't just write me off when I say it. All right? This word that we all strive for is this word and this feeling and this thing and this idea and this everything revolving around independence. We're all just looking for a little independence. Even using this channel and this platform, I am seeking independence from the social structure that binds me to you. It is a strange thing today because we are not as bound as we once were to said social structure. Whereas before, in the early days, we would become victims of isolation and alienation, and we would often be banned or barred or what have you. Today, those social restrictions are a little bit easier to get around. They're not kind of placed down as much as they were, and there needs to be a greater reason today to just isolate someone, to just have someone be isolated. The idea of isolation obviously begins when someone starts acting out of the social place in which they would act. They need to be isolated from the society that they're a part of to kind of... it's a strange thing, isolation, because isolation really isn't solving anything for the person. It's solving something for the group. And yet, this idea persists that if we isolate these people, they're going to somehow get better. And we've almost forgotten that isolation was never meant for the individual. Isolation was meant for the group. And so when we're isolating someone, we're not doing anything for them. Like, if we are doing anything for them, it's to remove them from doing damage to the society, to the group, to the majority. And so, independence, then, and this thing that we seek, all of us seek independence in some form or another. Even, for example, the clients that I service, they seek independence from the system that normally binds them. They have a certain amount of money they can use each month. They have a certain amount of places they can go. There's a certain amount of time before they have to sleep. They're always looking to bend every rule they can to live a life that is out of the ordinary or a little less ordinary than the life that they're going to lead for the rest of their life. And so we strive to do unordinary things with these people to combat the ordinary life that is eventually going to set in. And even the people who do things like, I've never taken a vacation before. I've never felt the need to, but I know people who constantly feel the need to take a vacation, to be away, to be isolated, to be almost removed. And once they're removed, they feel better when they reintroduce themselves. There's an implication that even though this person is isolated, they are coming back. And the thing that people have to understand is that this implication that this person is coming back even though they're away, it's really the same thing as jail, but it's looked at differently. we look at a vacation and we look at jail as two very different things. But that difference is only defined by the context of the person living it. Jail may very well be a vacation for a small amount of people. It really may be no different for someone who's never had a vacation. And then suddenly they're thrown into this different environment where they're going to go modulate themselves and learn how to modulate themselves better and learn how to cope better. And they're going to do better things, apparently. Whereas the person on the vacation, there's this implication that they are going to drink and they are going to get fucked up and they are going to do everything. They are just basically going to let loose and they are going to remove themselves from this place that they have here. And they're going to reintroduce themselves, and when they reintroduce themselves, they're going to be reinvigorated because they have been allowed to cut loose. They have been allowed to... They have been allowed some sort of freedom that apparently they don't already have. And yet, no one equates this with jail, the vacation. No one looks at these two concepts and says, why are these two concepts so alien to each other, and yet they're basically the same thing? What defines the difference between jail and a vacation? And obviously it's what goes on, but it's more so how the person perceives what's going on. Because as I said, there's some people that would think of jail as a vacation. And when they go on a vacation and they go to jail, maybe those two things aren't looking so differently as we think they are. Maybe if you think you need a vacation and you go to jail, maybe suddenly you don't need a vacation anymore. Instead of thinking you would actually need a vacation worse after thinking you need a vacation and then being introduced to jail, maybe if you're introduced to jail, you wouldn't need a vacation at all. Maybe you would realize that, hey, look, me taking a vacation and me going to jail is essentially me doing the same thing to my life socially. But the implications and the consequential implications socially of taking a vacation and going to jail are two very different things. When you speak to someone who has just got off a vacation, and then you just speak to someone who just served 3 years, it's a different thing. And even though the person wasn't on vacation for 3 years, I guess we should streamline that. Someone who was on a 3-month vacation and someone who was on a 3-month bid in jail. We look at those two things like they're different. There's a social implication that we're going to respect the person who is on vacation more than the person who was in jail for the 3 months that they were gone. But when we take away those two implications, we're left with the fact that each individual is gone for 3 months. They're devoid of their life socially. The person on a vacation may still probably have access to social media. That's another factor. So there obviously there are less rules on vacation than there are in jail, but anyways, the point is that in one instance we have the individual going to jail who is looking for less independence and more, maybe more, I don't even know what someone would look for going to jail. I don't think, obviously jail is a place you're forced to go. So, I guess you're not looking for anything. You're just looking to fulfill your obligation. But with vacation, it's a little bit different because we have an individual choosing to go. and where to go. But the fact remains that this individual feels the need to go. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter how, doesn't matter why. They just feel the need to go, and so they're going to. And it's very strange. Because in both instances, once the person returns, we have the same type of individual, only one is being burdened by a social implication of, I've gone to jail, I can no longer get a regular job like the person who just went on vacation. But really, it's the same thing. I mean, obviously, it's not dead the same thing. There's various different social implications and all sorts of differences that are occurring in that situation, but I guess to bring it back to the independence that I was speaking on before, it just makes me wonder what drives the independent person to seek isolation. The independent person seems to almost crave isolation in a way. And even the idea of isolation or of independence, is a very strange one. We constantly kind of burden ourselves with these thoughts that we need to be independent. That for some reason, even though we're all living in this social structure that we've built, we're seeking independence from it, or we're seeking independence inside of it, which is a little bit oxymoronish. And even the word independence I see as an oxymoron in our society, because to be fully independent is fucking horrible. To be fully independent is fucking horrible and also not possible. Because even if we have a person who is dependent upon no other person but themselves, that person is still dependent upon the earth. That person is still dependent to collect from the earth in order to survive. And so even through independence, we still find dependence. And even in the social structure, as I said, we find people who want independence, who feel like they need to be independent from everything going on, but yet still involved in the social structure that's been created today. We have this idea that we're fully independent and we're not. At no point in a human being's existence is that human being independent. And the fact that we even use that word is so egotistically just charged. There is no independence. None. We are all dependent upon each other to keep this thing running. 100%. And so when someone brings up this idea of independence, what they're really saying is that I'm going to take but not give back. To me, that's what independence in 2017 means. It means I'm going to be a part of everything that I need to be a part of to further myself, but when it comes to giving back, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm going to be independent. And this is such an interesting concept because it's not one that's spoken about very often. When we think about independence, we still think about the apparatuses that we're dependent on as human beings, but even then, we write a lot of those things that we're dependent on off. Such as, what's a good example? as an example, I call myself independent, and yet every day I go to the store and I buy products, whatever food products, clothes products, whatever products I need to fulfill my basic needs. I'm relying on someone else to get those products to that store, and I'm relying on someone else to actually manufacture those products into what they are, to refine those products. We're relying on individuals to even find the resources to create those products in the first place. And yet we lose track of this entire human process and just are left with this thing on a shelf that we're going to purchase. And by purchasing that, we consider that to be independence. I've purchased this myself, it's independence. I'm independent now because I bought this thing myself. When in reality, the only shred of independence there is that you're buying it yourself. It's no money is truly our money, right? No time. I guess time is really the only thing we can find independence with. Time is the only true thing that we really have that we can be independent with, the only resource, because everything else is really a part of a greater scheme. You know, people talk about independence with money, but that's not really the case, because if everyone was independent with their money, this entire thing would just break down. If there were suddenly no taxes, if there were suddenly no social programming, this entire thing would just break down. That's a level of independence that people don't want. But yet we're using this word independence like we all know what it's supposed to mean. Independent. I'm independent. And to an extent, we have an idea when someone says independent of what they're talking about and what they're not talking about. Like the example I just used, buying something off a shelf. We know there's an entire process involved in getting this item to the shelf, but I'm not concerning myself with that. I'm only concerning myself with the act of actually buying that product in terms of independence. And that leaves me wondering why. Why are we so focused on maintaining that scope of independence? If I say, well, that's not independent though, and then the person goes, oh, well, you know what I mean though, right? And I nod my head and say, yeah, I do know what you mean. But at the same time, I don't. You know, in the grand scheme of being a human being, I understand what you mean by independence, but as an observer, as a unbiased, unhuman, just sightful observer, I don't understand what you mean by independence. As a human, I do, but as a unaided observer, as just somebody who's just watching, I don't understand what people mean by independence. It's a joke to me. To that observer, this idea of independence is laughable. What part of this life is independent from any other? None. None at all. We just use independence as a reason to create space between each other. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've helped someone and they've turned around and haven't helped me back. And as much as I want to look at that person and say, well, you know, they are independent now, they don't need to help me, the fact of the matter is that we're all dependent upon each other. But yet there's this idea that it's okay to be independent. That it's okay to not give back. That's what I really view as being independent, as not giving back. And And that's a slippery slope and a thin line, because as a human being, like I said, I understand independence. I get it. But as the observer, I can't help but just ask, why do you need to be independent? What what part of this is driving you to be independent? This system that we've created, you would be a fool to try and be independent of this. To be independent of all the technology and technological advances that we all have access to due to our combined our combined dependence upon each other. And yet we're fooling ourselves by saying, well, no, I need independence. It just blows me away that people are still so wrapped up around this idea of independence. And financially, I get it. I get that we all need money to live. We need we need money to support our families. We need resources to support our families. And in those families, we can't just be putting, random people above our families. We can't just be saying, well, that person's not, this person is not providing for themselves, so we need to step in and provide for them. I don't expect that type of dependence upon each other, right? But at the same time, why don't I? Why is it a bad thing to have that type of independence? It's because we ultimately have people who want nothing to do with independence, who just want to be dependent. And this is the idea that's beginning to take hold in our countries. This idea that we no longer have an independent person in a dependent society. Are you following? We no longer have an independent person in our dependent society any longer. It's a very strange thing where we don't have a dependent society, but there's certain aspects of in this society we expect you to be independent in. And when you're not, it really hampers your ability to participate in this society. And just the simple idea that one could be independent and dependent at the same time is almost alien to me. Because I have always been drilled. It's been drilled into my head that I should be independent. And I know I should be, but there's some things that we can't be independent from. Like this social structure that we're all a part of, and so many other things that you all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to sit here and talk about that. You all know what I'm talking about from a human point of view. You all understand this need to be independent. We have this need to be as independent as possible. And yet we have people who are taking that idea and warping it and saying they need to be as dependent as possible. We have these people who are not ready to do anything for themselves and would rather be dependent upon the money from the government than anything else. It's just such a strange thing to even think about, because this isn't a topic we normally discuss. It's a topic that's so kind of contextual, and we're just expected to know. We're just expected to know where we're supposed to be independent in and where we're not. And it's expected that if someone isn't independent, we don't really call them out on it. That if someone is relying on the government that we know should not be relying on the government, that we shouldn't say anything. That we shouldn't that we shouldn't do anything. It's such a strange, I don't even know where I am in this topic here. Like, it's just such an alien topic to even think of. And yet that doesn't mean it's not okay to talk about. So I think one of the big things that people really are struggling to even talk about in general is just this simple idea that we have a lot of dependent people being created by this supposedly independent system. Supposedly this system that we're a part of is supposed to breed independence, and yet we right now have more dependent people than ever. Well, we have more people than ever, period. But in the grand scheme of things, everyone is dependent upon this system, and yet when we talk about independence, we talk about it like everyone is not dependent upon this system. There needs to be a new word, because our minds don't have a word to quantify this concept against. This word needs to be in between dependence and independence. It needs to be this thing that we can use to describe what we're supposed to be, because right now I don't think we know. I think we know to a point, but do we know fully enough to define it? No, because we don't even have a word for it. So how could we, yeah, no. We are breeding dependent people in a system that's supposed to be independent. That doesn't make any sense at all. My mind right now is trying to make sense of that idea, and it can't, because the idea does not make sense. We're in a system that literally makes no sense. And we all know it. We're all fully aware that the system makes no sense. And yet, we're still willing to participate. We're all willing to participate, knowing full well that we are enabling people who could be independent to be dependent. And yet we have no answer to the problem at all. And that's because there's only one answer. And we all know what the answer is. The answer is to let those people fucking starve. The answer is to let those people die out. The answer is to let the strong survive and let everyone else fucking just die. And that's what nature does. But we somehow see ourselves above nature. We somehow have this savior complex. Like we have a place for everyone. Like there's a place for everyone. And the thing is that there is absolutely a place for everyone, but that person has to want that place. And if the person doesn't want that place, then can the person exist in our society? The answer should be no, but strangely, the answer is yes, they can. And that's how we know that this system is broken, and that's how we know this society is broken. And some people get so frustrated that they can't put a label on this situation that they're experiencing, that other people who are actually involved in being dependent and not independent, they're looking at that person and saying, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about me? You know, are you trying to take my benefits away? Fuck yeah, I'm trying to take your benefits away. What the fuck? Of course I am. But again, the other thing is that every single person is benefiting from this system in one way or another. And I know that because the system continues to exist. Trust me, if no one benefited from this system, it wouldn't exist. Okay? We're fucking human beings, so let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay? If no one was benefiting from this system would not fucking exist. Okay? The sole reason it continues to exist is because the majority is benefiting from it. And that can't happen. The majority cannot benefit. The majority needs to put in work. When there's a minority putting in work and a majority enjoying the benefit of that work, that's when it becomes a problem, and that's where we're at. We're at a place where there's a significant amount of people who are dependent and not independent and are not being forced to be independent. We are fully embracing these people's right to be dependent upon us. And that dependence ultimately makes us slaves to them. Do you understand that the independent person has become a slave to the dependent person through the government, through social programming, through welfare? The working person has become a slave to the unworking person. We are now forced to go to work just to pay the bills of the people that aren't working. Think about how fucking ridiculous that is for a minute. We, the working people, are going to work to pay the bills of the people who aren't working. And yet, all we can talk about with this system is independence. We need to be independent. We need to be independent. But here, pay my bills. But we need to be independent. Oh, here's my car ticket. But be independent. I think I just threw a wrench in that whole shit. I didn't think I was getting anywhere there for a minute, but now I've kind of realized, okay, I just found the mark right there. That was the nail that just sealed the coffin right there. Yeah. I thought I was talking about some bullshit there, but I'm actually on the right track. That's funny. Yeah. Independence. What part of this whole fucking thing breeds independence? Give me a fucking break. Independence. Independent from what? What are you independent from? Fucking ask yourself that. What the fuck are you independent from? Me? You're listening to me, fucking dummy. You're not even independent from me, and we're not even in the same fucking room. Think about that for a minute. Holy fuck. Yeah, independence is definitely something we need to sort out. That's something that needs to start being talked about a lot more. And the thing is, it feels like a topic that's been beat to death, but that's only because of the excuses of the people who are benefiting. They don't want to talk about this issue. They just want this issue to persist so they can benefit from it. That's what all people do when they're dependent upon an issue. They want to keep that issue alive so that they can continue to be dependent and are not forced to be independent. So as you can see, this idea of independence is not real at all. It is a fabrication of your imagination. You are not independent. You are dependent. You are not independent. At no point have you ever been independent. At this very moment, you are dependent upon the earth to supply oxygen to you. Without that oxygen, you will die. So to even suggest that you are independent is so brazenly, egotistically stupid and meat-headed that a human being might actually just say it. Which is the truth. It's something that's said all the time. Independence. Here's an idea. Why don't you be as independent as you possibly can? You want to know why that's not said? Because nobody is as independent as they possibly can be. Nobody. We're all dependent upon each other. But for some reason, when we talk about that dependence, the first thing we talk about is independence, and how we all know that we should be as independent as possible, and yet we aren't. We're all aware that we should be, but yet we aren't. And then when someone gets exposed, we all point our fingers at them saying, "Oh, you're not independent, when neither of us are either." And so we're really just like it's such a strange thing. And this is what kills me about this issue, is no one talks about the difference between dependence and independence, and the fact that there really isn't one. There really is not a difference. Independence does not exist in this nature. Independence is not really even a word. It shouldn't be. It's a brazenly selfish word, independence. There is no independence in this world. There's none. That's like the word the boogeyman. There is no boogeyman. But yet we got a word for it. So why the fuck do we got a word for it? Because we're dumb. That's why. Oh. That's why the boogeyman exists. That's why independence exists. Because we're ego-driven animals who are dumb as fuck. That's why. Independence. What a fucking... Holy fuck, what a crock of shit. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try to be independent. I'm just saying no one else is, okay? That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that shit's for the fucking birds. That's like when you see two lineups, and you see one, and the empty lineup has a sign that says line up here. And it's this long fucking road, long winding road that you're gonna have to spend 3 hours walking. And then the other line is right to where you want to go in 5 minutes, but you're not supposed to be lining up there. You're just gonna follow the herd. That's your job, is to follow the herd as a human being. But who the fuck is leading the herd? Do we even care? Look at how Trump is president. Do we even fucking care who's leading the herd, or are we more concerned with following? I think the independent person even is more concerned with following. Because then we have other people around us to kind of cater to this idea in our heads that we are independent. And I say, "Oh, I'm independent." And the guy says beside me, "Yeah, me too." And the other guy says, "Yeah, me too. We're all independent." Which is really just, it's just like a title even. Independent is just a title. It's like Mr. or Mrs. or King or Queen or whatever. You might as well just be calling each other King and Queen. You know, King and Queen of what? What kingdom? Well, what are you independent of? Well, nothing. Well, you don't have a kingdom either, so you might as well just be calling yourself King or Queen if you're independent. You know, there's no one who's independent. No one. And there's so many unsaid things that I could say about that. But really, when we talk about independence, all we're talking about is money. And that's the other thing, is that we're not just talking about money. We're talking about what people are doing for themselves. And what are people doing for themselves less and less every day? Due to technology, due to social programming, due to a whole lot of different issues, we have people doing less and less for themselves every day. And here's the kicker. For some fucking reason, it's a mystery. We have people doing less and less things every day, and yet we don't want to talk about it anymore. Every day, we just want to talk about it less and less for some fucking reason. I don't get it. When I was helping my client this weekend, my client is not used to making their bed. The guardian will make the client's bed for them. So the guardian has bred this expectation that you don't have to make your own bed, and yet now the guardian is having this expectation that, okay, you need to go have a job now. So we have an individual who literally cannot make their own bed, but for some reason there's this expectation being put down that they should have a full-time job. That's the type of fucking irrational nonsense I fucking deal with on a daily basis. This like, how irrational is that? That and not only that the person can't make their bed, but the guardian has actually done it for the individual to basically take away their chances to learn how to make their own bed. Now, them learning to make their own bed isn't even an expectation. When you don't have to learn anymore, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I actually had to look at her in the eye and be like, what type of existence is this person leading when they no longer have to learn anything anymore? And she just looked at me and was just fucking dumbfounded with just her lack of an answer to such an easy fucking question. And just staring at me. Staring at my chest, not even looking at me in the face. Staring at my chest going, I don't know. And I don't fucking know either. You think I got an answer? I don't fucking know. But I sure as hell ain't fucking thinking that's okay. Fuck. Like, seriously though, what type of existence are we leading when we think we don't have to learn anything anymore? How wrapped up in your ego are you to think that you don't need to learn anything else in this life? How fucking stupid do you have to be to think that you don't have to learn anything else in this lifetime? How fucking stupid do you have to be to think that? And we have our answer. The answer is the modern person. That's the answer. We think we have the most intelligent people that have ever existed right now. I disagree. I disagree. Respectfully, I disagree. I refuse to believe that. I think the human potential is much more than this, okay? This is great and all. This is fantastic. But we all know this could be about 10 times fucking better. And yet, for some reason, we're all just kind of okay with this instead. I don't know why. I've no fucking idea why. I don't know. And yet, if our TV's not working, we're gonna replace that bitch, even if we don't watch it, right? Our TV's gotta work. Oh, but God forbid the fucking society we live in. That's the modern person for you, though. That's what it is, and I'm not saying I'm any different. That's the biggest kicker of all. The guy talking about all this ain't any different than any of you. And I'm gonna go back to doing the same fucking thing that I've always been doing. I'm gonna go back to believing that I'm some kind of independent human being when no part of my life is dependent or independent, and it's all dependent upon others, and yet I have this strange idea that I'm independent. It's like somebody rubbed my ego, you know. It's such a strange thing, but there it is, and there it will remain. I think we need to remain objective about this, though. I don't think that we can just, say, okay, I have a human perspective, but I also have an inhuman perspective. I also have a perspective that's unbiased. And we need to retain that unbiased perspective. We can't just let our humanity run rampant and wild. That's not okay. And, yeah, we can't let that humanity just become the reason we're justifying our experiences and justifying our lives. Humanity is not the be-all, end-all. And in fact, I say this quite a bit, but every day that you go without killing someone, you go another day where you're becoming farther and farther away from what an actual human being is. Because as human beings, war is like we're killing each other constantly. War is part of being a human being. And so every day we go without war, we stray further and further away from being a human being. But in that, we also have to realize that war is not the same thing that it was 20 years ago. War now is being conducted on the internet. It is not being conducted in real life, so to speak, even though it technically is through the internet. But it's not being done physically. It's being done intellectually. That's how war is being played now. Are the stakes higher, lower? I have no idea. But war hasn't gone anywhere. And people who think, oh, we haven't had a war in 20 years. There's a war going on every fucking day. It's just outside of your perspective. You don't understand that. You don't understand that for war to go away, our human and the human being would have to go away. Do you understand that? That oh, we haven't had a war. We have a war every day, not because the war exists, but because we exist. The war is not just something that happens. We bring the war. And even if we're not shooting each other, it doesn't mean we're not at war. And the reason we're at war is because we're human beings. Not because war just happened. Oh, a war happened. No. Get that fucking stupid idea out of your fucking head right now. No, war does not just happen. As much as certain individuals would love you to believe that, we are the vessels that war exists through. If war was to ever go away, it would just come back the next day because we're human beings. War isn't something that existed before us. We created war. We are war. Do you understand that? So people who are like, oh my God, are we gonna have a next world war? Of course we are. The fuck? Are we gonna have a next world war? Are you gonna fucking die soon, you fucking piece of shit that isn't a human being? Of course we're gonna have a fucking war. We're human beings. Why the fuck wouldn't we? You think we're gonna go out with some meteor or something? Fuck no. We're gonna kill each other. We're gonna do the exact same thing we've always done, and we're not going to escape that. Why? Because I could live in a society 10 times better, but I'm okay with this one. Even though I know every fault, and some of them some of the faults I'm not even aware of this society, I'm still okay living in it. That is why war will never go anywhere. Because ultimately we're okay with war. And if we weren't okay with war, we'd go to bigger steps to make sure it stopped. Really, we don't give a shit unless we're the ones fighting it. And the second we're the ones fighting it, we just want war to stop. Well, the whole fucking world relies on us to keep fighting. I don't know if I've gone too deep for some of you today. I feel like I might have gone way over the deep end on this whole idea. And if you're thinking in a different way now, great. That's the whole point of doing this shit. And if there's some kind of fucking thing wrong with it, go fuck yourself. I don't care. If your name is Jason Van and you've been receiving emails saying you're a fucking homo dick sucker, great. That's just part of the plan. And if you want to be a fan, the only thing you have to do is you have to Google my name, Jason Van Jason, and you have to find an individual, another author with the name Jason Van. And I can't give you the individual's full name or the individuals But know that they exist and know that they're homo dick suckers and they're not worth your time. And the only Jason Van who is worth your time is Jason Van Jason. And to the rest of those cocksuckers who are cunt nigger bitch faggots, I wish you the very best. Just not with what you're doing in competition with me. And I guess that goes for everyone. Go fuck yourself. To an extent. But at the same time, I also have to understand that I'm not independent of those Jason Van folk. I just believe I am. And because I believe I am, I'm going to tell them all that they're piece of shit human beings and they should all die and horribly and preferably and all that good stuff. Anyways, I'm rambling on now. We're at 56 minutes here. My name is Jason Van Jason. This is Bitch Faggot Radio. If you need to get a hold of the show, jvjradio@protonmail.com. I will answer your questions directly on the show. If you want to find my Twitter, @JasonVanJason. If you want to find my blog, you can go to Amazon Author Central page, Jason Van Jason, and you will find a link to my blog. You will find products that you can buy for 99 cents. I'm on Facebook as well. If you'd like to know that, maybe send me an email and I'll get that back to you, but I'm not gonna promote something I don't really use. At least not yet. Maybe I will in the future, though. I have to in the future, because I'd be a stupid cunt not to. And I am a stupid cunt, so maybe I just won't. But, anyways, I hope this has all been kind of giving you something to think about. I've been trying to wrap my head around this shit for years, and I don't know. I guess it was just time for it to all come out. Hopefully there wasn't a bunch of stupid coming with it, and if there was, deal with it. Anyways, love you all. May God bless you. May the devil touch you. May you find a balance in your life that's going to take you somewhere you want to be, or don't want to be. That's important. May take you somewhere you don't want to be. That's just as good as being somewhere you do want to be. You just don't fucking know it yet. So get your shit straight. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.